Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, something invisible seems to stop your blessings from reaching you? As if there is a barrier that blocks your progress, even when you are on the right path. What if I told you that this blockage could be coming from within, not from without? Today, you will understand what may be holding you back spiritually, and more importantly, how to free yourself so that your life can finally flow as God intended. Before we continue, I want you to do three very important things right now. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. This way, you guarantee that you won't miss any content that can transform your life. And more. I want you to comment right now, "I unlock my life." This comment is not just a sentence, it is an act of faith, a step to declare that you are ready to break through all the barriers that prevent you from moving forward. Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, something invisible seems to be stopping you from progressing? As if there were a barrier that silently blocked all the opportunities that should have come your way. This is no coincidence. Many people go their entire lives without realizing that the blessings they hope for have already been released, but they are unable to receive them because they are blocked by invisible forces, some external, but many of them of our own making. The first step to changing this reality is understanding that what stops your progress may not be the world around you, but something inside you, something that you carry in your heart and mind without realizing it, and that is closing the doors that God has already opened. What few people know is that life doesn't just work on the material plane. There is an invisible field where spiritual forces act, both to propel and hinder a person's destiny. When someone feels that their life is at a standstill, that everything is going wrong, or that they experience repetitive cycles of failure, it is essential to look beyond what the eyes can see. The problem is not just in the effort you make or don't make, but in what you feed spiritually. What you feel, think, and carry within yourself may be working like a magnet that repels the blessings that should already be flowing naturally. And understanding this could be the key to completely transforming your reality. But how can you identify if this is happening to you? How do you know if there is something blocking your blessings? The first sign is the feeling of stagnation. If it seems like nothing is moving forward, that you are struggling without progress, that doors are closing without explanation, then there is something bigger going on. And that doesn't mean you're destined for failure. On the contrary, it means that there is essential learning so that you can unlock your life once and for all. Today, you will understand exactly what could be causing this blockage and, more importantly, how to free yourself from it. Stagnation in life does not happen by chance. When your journey seems stuck, it's a sign that something needs to change internally before any external change can happen. One of the biggest signs that there is a spiritual blockage is the repetition of cycles. Have you ever noticed that you always face the same problems, even though you try to approach them in different ways? Relationships that end the same way, opportunities that slip through the cracks, challenges that come back when you think you've finally overcome them. This happens because, when we don't learn an essential lesson, life makes us repeat it until we are transformed. And the most curious thing is that this is not a punishment, but rather an opportunity to evolve. Another clear sign that there is something holding your life back spiritually is the feeling of heaviness and constant emotional fatigue. When a person is spiritually misaligned, their own energy becomes dense. Everything seems more difficult, more exhausting, more time-consuming. Have you ever had the impression that you are swimming against the tide, as if each step required an enormous effort? This could be an indication that there is something blocking your path, and that something could be within you. Often, unresolved emotions, resentments, fears, and even emotional addictions create this invisible barrier, preventing the natural flow of blessings from happening. Furthermore, another frequent symptom is a lack of clarity. Do you feel that no matter how hard you try, you can't see a way out, like you're trapped in a maze with no answers? When there is a spiritual blockage, the person's mind becomes clouded, full of doubts and uncertainties. It's as if everything around is confused, without direction. This is a sign that there is something bigger happening, and that before moving forward, it is necessary to look inside and identify what is preventing this clarity. Now, the big question is, what is actually causing these blockages? Stop for a moment and pay attention to this. Many times, blessings are already on their way, but something inside us prevents them from arriving. And do you know what one of the most powerful secrets to releasing this flow is? Gratitude. When you give thanks before even seeing the result, you are showing the universe and God that you believe in abundance and are ready to receive. And I want to give you the opportunity to put that energy into motion now. If this video makes sense to you, send a "thanks a lot" worth up to $100 as an act of gratitude. Not for me, but to declare to the universe that you accept everything good that is coming your way. Many people ignore this principle and continue to live trapped in scarcity, while others realize that when they show gratitude, incredible things happen. Unexpected opportunities, doors opening, and even that luck that seems impossible, like winning extra money or even an unexpected prize. The decision is in your hands. Many people spend years believing that their difficulties are the result of bad luck, a lack of opportunities, or even external attacks. But what if I told you that, in most cases, what prevents change is not outside, but inside the person themselves? The truth is that your mind and heart act as a filter for what you receive in life. If this filter is dirty, with negative emotions, limiting beliefs, or toxic patterns, nothing new can enter. That's why some people live for years trapped in the same problems, without realizing that the change they seek so much needs to start within themselves. When we talk about spiritual blockages, we are dealing with a profound process. Often without realizing it, people are resisting the changes they want. Have you ever wondered why it's so difficult to get out of a bad cycle? The answer lies in fear of the unknown. Even when a situation is bad, the human mind prefers the familiar to the uncertain. This is why some people stay in toxic relationships, energy-draining jobs, or destructive habits. There is an unconscious fear of leaving the comfort zone, even if that comfort zone is bringing pain. What few people understand is that as long as we continue to cling to the past, fear and resistance, we will not be able to move forward. God has already prepared new opportunities, new doors, and a new path. But if you are still holding on to what you should have left behind, there will be no room to welcome the new. And here is the great truth. What is stopping you from moving forward is not the lack of blessings, but rather the lack of space for them to enter your life. Now, we need to understand what are the main blockages that may be sabotaging your destiny. Have you ever felt that every time you're about to achieve something important, something mysterious happens and stops you? As if an invisible force is always pulling you back at the last moment. Many people believe that their life is determined only by effort and external circumstances, but the truth is that there is a spiritual field at work all the time. Forces operating in the unseen can both propel and halt your destiny. And the most surprising thing is that many times you yourself may be allowing these forces to have control over your life without even realizing it. The energy we carry in our heart has a direct impact on our reality. Feelings such as fear, envy, resentment, and disguised pride function as spiritual anchors, keeping us stuck in a frequency of scarcity and difficulty. God has already prepared a path of abundance and growth for you, but if your heart is loaded with negative emotions, you will be vibrating at a frequency that repels these blessings. This is why some people live a lifetime stuck, repeating the same problems. Not because God doesn't want to bless them, but because they are not ready to receive. Furthermore, there are spiritual forces that take advantage of our emotional weaknesses to keep us stagnant. Often the biggest attacks against your life are not direct, but subtle. That doubt that appears in your mind when making an important decision. That fear that arises when you think about leaving your comfort zone. Those distractions that take you away from your purpose. All of this could be a strategy to prevent you from moving forward. But now that you understand this mechanism, it's time to go one step further. Identify the biggest trap that keeps your life stuck. Many people believe that you just need to have faith and pray for things to happen. But what if I told you that this is one of the biggest illusions that prevent true growth? Spirituality is not passive. God does not act in our lives while we remain in the same place, expecting miracles without taking any action. Praying is essential, but without internal transformation and concrete action, nothing changes. This is why so many people spend years in churches, make promises, fast, and still feel like nothing changes. The problem is not in faith, but in the lack of real alignment between your mind, your heart, and your actions. The biggest mistake a chosen one can make is believing that their life will be transformed without effort. Often, real change happens when you take actions that require courage, abandoning destructive habits, moving away from toxic people, changing your way of thinking and acting. The problem is that these changes are often uncomfortable, which is why so many people choose to stay in their comfort zone, even when that comfort zone is destroying their lives. The great truth is that God has already prepared everything for you, but He cannot do your part. If you continue waiting for the solution to come from outside, without changing anything within yourself, you will remain stuck in the same cycle. Therefore, the question you need to ask yourself now is, are you really ready to receive the blessings that God has for your life? Or are you still holding on to limiting beliefs and behaviors that keep you stagnant? Because change doesn't start in the external world. It starts within you. And in the next block, we'll explore exactly how self-sabotage may be preventing your transformation and what to do to break this cycle once and for all. Self-sabotage is one of the most powerful weapons against the chosen ones. It acts in a silent, disguised way, causing the person himself to create barriers against the blessings that God has already prepared. Have you ever found yourself giving up halfway through, even though you knew you were on the right path? Have you ever noticed that every time a big change approaches, something inside you creates an excuse to postpone, avoid, or even destroy the opportunity? This doesn't happen by chance. The human mind has a defense mechanism that tries to keep us safe, and that safety often means staying exactly where we are, even if it causes us suffering. The biggest danger of self-sabotage is that it is subtle. Unlike a visible enemy, which you can face head-on, self-sabotage happens inside your own mind, manipulating your emotions, creating doubts and fears that make you hesitate. It often manifests itself through procrastination, insecurity, and even the feeling that you are not good enough to achieve what you want. These feelings are not just loose thoughts. They are tools used to keep you stagnant, to prevent you from advancing to a new level. And the worst of all, often you don't even realize you're sabotaging yourself because it happens so naturally that it seems just part of your personality or destiny. But the truth is that your destiny was already written to be great. God did not create you to live in scarcity, doubt, or fear. However, as long as you continue to believe lies about yourself, you will continue to repeat the same mistakes, the same cycles, and the same frustrations. The only way to break this trap is to recognize the thought and behavior patterns that are sabotaging you and start acting differently. And to do this, we need to understand one of the biggest factors that keep a person stuck in the same place: repetitive cycles. If you feel like your life is going in circles, going through the same challenges, facing the same obstacles, and falling into the same situations, there is something very important that needs to be understood. Nothing in life happens by chance. If a cycle repeats itself, it means there is a lesson that has not yet been learned. Many people believe that their problems come from the outside, from others, from circumstances, from a lack of opportunities, but the truth is that cycles repeat themselves because something inside you has not yet been transformed. And until this transformation happens, you will continue to face the same challenges, like a student who needs to repeat the same test several times until he gets the answer right. What makes this cycle so dangerous is that it creates a feeling of powerlessness. The person begins to believe that they are doomed to always live the same story, as if they were trapped in a maze with no way out. This generates frustration, discouragement, and in many cases, even a loss of faith in one's own future. But the truth is that God never puts us in front of a challenge without giving us the ability to overcome it. If something is repeating itself in your life, it is because there is an internal transformation that needs to happen. And this transformation begins with an essential question. What haven't I learned yet? What am I ignoring that keeps me stuck in this same pattern? It takes courage to ask this question and even more, to face the answer. Sometimes the lesson is learning to value yourself more. Other times, it's letting go of a negative thought pattern that you've been harboring for years. And often, it involves letting go of something that should have already been left behind. As long as you continue to hold on to what God has already asked you to let go of, the cycle will repeat itself. The choice is yours. Remain trapped or finally break this chain. But to do that, we need to talk about something even deeper. The feelings we carry in our hearts and how they shape our reality. The biggest prisons are not made of iron or visible chains. They are made up of unresolved emotions, of pains that have been held in for so long that they have become part of the person's identity. Have you ever felt a weight in your chest that you can't explain? As if something is always pulling you down, taking away your energy, preventing you from moving forward. This invisible weight is often made up of resentments, traumas, hurts, and fears that have accumulated over the years. And the worst of all, as long as you continue to carry this weight, the blessings that God has for your life cannot be fully manifested. The reason for this is simple. The energy you emit into the world defines what you receive back. If you carry anger, fear, envy, or sadness, this will be the vibration that attracts more of these same experiences into your life. People often don't realize they are stuck in negative emotions because they become part of their everyday lives. But stop for a moment and ask yourself, what inside me still hurts? What feelings do I continue to harbor even though I know they are harmful to me? Because as long as these emotions are inside you, they will be a barrier between you and what God has already prepared for your life. The good news is that this weight can be left behind. The first step to this is recognizing that you no longer need to carry it. Past hurts, regrets, pains that seem impossible to overcome, all of these can be healed. But for that to happen, you need to be willing to let go. And one of the main factors that keep this weight inside us is directly linked to the people we connect with. Therefore, it is essential to talk about the influence of toxic relationships on our spiritual life. Not all connections we have in our lives are positive. Some people come into our journey not to help us grow, but to pull us back. And the scariest thing, we often cling to these relationships even though we know they are destroying us. Have you ever had that feeling that someone around you is draining your energy? As if, after spending time with this person, you feel drained, unmotivated, heavy? This happens because spiritual connections are real, and some of them are true chains that prevent us from moving forward. The problem is that, out of fear of loneliness or emotional attachment, many people remain in relationships that should have ended a long time ago. Friendships that bring more envy than support, relationships that drain energy, environments that only reinforce negative patterns. All of this directly influences your spiritual life. God wants to take you to a new level, but to do that, He needs you to be surrounded by the right people. As long as you insist on maintaining ties that no longer make sense, you will be hindering your own evolution. The question here is simple. Who around you is pushing you, and who is holding you back? Because the connections you maintain determine the direction of your life. If you want to move forward, you need to be willing to cut the ties that bind you to the past. But this is not the only factor that influences its growth. There is something even more subtle, but extremely powerful, that may be preventing you from fully experiencing God's blessings, the hidden forces that act without you realizing it. Not everything that happens in your life can be explained only by what is visible. There are spiritual forces that act all the time, some to open paths, others to close them. And the scariest thing? Most people don't even realize they are being influenced. If you feel that even though you try hard, everything goes wrong in an inexplicable way, or that every time you are about to achieve something important, an unexpected barrier appears, it may be that hidden forces are working to keep you exactly where you are. But how does this happen? Through your own weaknesses, your own fears, and what you have not yet resolved within yourself. The great trick of these forces is not to attack in an obvious way, but rather to act subtly, planting doubts, insecurities, and distractions along their path. They feed on your lack of clarity, your indecision, and the negative feelings you carry. Have you noticed how, every time you decide to change your life, situations begin to arise that pull you back? People from the past reappear. Bad opportunities appear disguised as blessings, and your mind starts to find excuses to stay in the comfort zone. This is no coincidence. The closer you are to a major transformation, the greater the resistance to prevent it from happening. But here's the truth. No hidden force can hold you back if you don't let it. The problem is that we often give power to these influences without realizing it, as, through fear, lack of faith, the wrong choices we make without thinking. To free yourself, you need to strengthen your spirit and learn to recognize when something is trying to stop you from moving forward. And to do this, the first thing that needs to be worked on is fear, one of the most paralyzing feelings there is. In the next block, we will dive deeper into this issue and understand how fear can be sabotaging your life without you realizing it. Fear is one of the most powerful weapons used to keep you stuck in the same place. It doesn't just manifest itself as dread in the face of something threatening, but in a much more subtle and insidious way. In doubt, in insecurity, in procrastination, in the feeling that you are not good enough. How many opportunities have you missed because you were afraid of failing? How many times have you known you needed to take action, but hesitated because you feared the consequences? Fear paralyzes, weakens, and, if not controlled, can completely destroy the plans that God has for your life. The great truth is that fear is often an illusion. It is based on past experiences, traumas, and limiting beliefs that have been nurtured over the years. Have you ever noticed that most of the time, what you feared most never happened? This is because fear is a mind mechanism that tries to keep you safe within your comfort zone. But here's the thing. Your comfort zone is not your destiny. God did not create you to live a limited life, full of fears and doubts. He gave you the ability to face challenges and grow from them. The only way to overcome fear is to face it. This doesn't mean ignoring it, but rather acknowledging it and moving forward despite it. If you want to change your life, you need to stop waiting until you feel ready, because that moment will never come. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting even when it is present. As long as you continue to let yourself be dominated by him, the doors will remain closed. But the moment you decide to trust, take a step of faith and act, something powerful happens. Fear loses its power over you. And it is at that moment that the true blessings begin to manifest themselves. If there is a barrier that prevents many people from receiving their blessings, that barrier is called unforgiveness. Holding on to hurts, resentments, and grudges is like carrying invisible chains that weigh down your life. The most curious thing, Often the person who hurt you doesn't even remember what they did, while you remain stuck in the suffering, reliving the pain over and over again. This prevents you from moving forward, from growing, and from living the fullness of what God has for you. Forgiveness isn't about the other person, it's about you. It's about freeing yourself from the weight that is blocking your path. But forgiving is not easy. Often the pain is so deep that it seems impossible to simply let it go. The problem is that as long as you insist on carrying this wound, it will continue to prevent you from moving forward. Lack of forgiveness creates a spiritual barrier, a negative energy that repels what is good and attracts even more suffering. God cannot pour new blessings into a heart full of resentment. He wants you to be free, and this freedom only happens when you choose to let go of what should have been left in the past. And forgiveness isn't limited to others. You need to forgive yourself too. How many times have you blamed yourself for past mistakes? How many nights did you spend thinking about what you could have done differently? Know this: God has already forgiven you, but you need to forgive yourself too. Carrying guilt and regret does not change the past. It only prevents you from building a better future. Free yourself from these chains and make space for transformation. Because without forgiveness, there is no renewal. Everything in your life starts with the way you think. If your mind is programmed for scarcity, you will never see opportunities, only obstacles. Many people live stuck in a limiting mindset, believing that they are not good enough, that they are unlucky, or that they will never be able to get out of the situation they are in. But the truth is, what you believe determines what you receive. If you think small, your life will be small. If you believe you don't deserve more, you will never get more. And this is one of the biggest spiritual traps there is. Scarcity is not just about money. It's about how you see the world. Those who live in fear of lack will always be trapped in lack. Anyone who looks at the success of others with envy rather than inspiration is telling the universe that they don't believe they can win too. If you want to unlock your life, you need to change your mindset. God did not create you to live in emotional, spiritual, or financial misery. But as long as you continue to believe that there isn't enough to go around, you will continue to sabotage yourself. Change begins when you decide to stop looking at limitations and start seeing possibilities. Those who have faith do not see barriers, they see paths. Those who have an abundance mindset understand that there is always room to grow. There are always opportunities waiting to be taken advantage of. The question you need to ask yourself now is, am I nurturing a growth mindset, or am I holding myself back in a scarcity mindset? Because the answer to that question could change your life forever. True change doesn't happen on the outside. It starts within you. Many people believe that if they just had more money, more opportunities, or more luck, everything would change. But the reality is that if your mind and heart are not prepared, nothing external can transform your life. This is why so many people achieve wealth and still live unhappy. This is why some people lose everything they achieved, because internally they still carried destructive beliefs that took them back to where they started. Internal transformation happens when you decide to change your patterns, your emotions, and your way of seeing life. This means clearing everything that is blocking you: fear, guilt, resentment, attachment to the past. It means taking full responsibility for your journey without blaming others, without expecting effortless miracles. It means deciding once and for all that you deserve more and that you are willing to do whatever it takes to grow. And this transformation is not a one-time event, but a daily process. Every day, you have the choice to remain trapped in your old ties or to take a step towards freedom. The decision is yours. But before taking this final step, there is one last crucial element that you need to understand: the definitive step to breaking all the chains that still bind you. Now that you understand all the barriers that may be preventing you from moving forward, there is one last decision that needs to be made. You can absorb all this information and continue living as before, or you can take action and completely transform your life. The final step to breaking these chains is simple but powerful. Act with faith and persistence. Nothing will change if you don't decide to put into practice everything you learned here. This means making real changes. Cut destructive habits, abandon negative thoughts, move away from everything that drains your energy. It means stopping waiting for the world to change before you change. God has already placed everything you need in your path, but it's up to you to take the necessary steps to get there. Now look at your life. Are you ready to break these chains once and for all? Because if the answer is yes, the transformation has already begun within you.